I'm about to make marketing, and specifically LASIK marketing, clear for the very first time. Are you ready for it? This is it. The idea of effective marketing is simply generating somebody who's in a before state and transforming them into an after state that they want to be in. So in the before state, they're quite unhappy. They're frustrated. They're annoyed. Could be for any reason. But typically when it comes to LASIK marketing, it's often because they're wearing glasses and they hate them. Okay? So where do we want to take them? We want to take them to a life where glasses are not a problem, where contact lenses are not a concern. They're happy, they're empowered, they're capable of doing whatever it is that they want to do. So that's what good marketing, and specifically LASIK marketing, can achieve. So let me give you an overview that's a bit deeper in terms of how we actually do that, how we make that transformation possible. We have what we call a customer value journey. And that customer value journey is comprised of 8 boxes. I want you to think about these 8 boxes as I'm talking about them now. First of all, you start with awareness. You've got to make somebody aware of you. Just like in dating, for example, you've got to be where the action is. You've got to be where the people are. You're not going to meet anybody by staying in your house and, keeping to yourself. You've got to be where people are. And in LASIK marketing, that is typically on Google, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Right, so that's awareness. Moving over to engage, that's the second step. Engagement is about turning a glance into a stare. And engagement is all about blog posts and getting people to stay with you, watching videos on your website, spending some time, and really getting to know you as a trusting and credible source of information so that they can get to the next stage, which is subscribe. Subscribe is the third box, and subscribe is where people make a small commitment, typically leaving their name or their email address or their phone number, in exchange for a very small piece of value that they can consume within 5 minutes or less. Typically that takes the form of a self-test. So now the person is starting to engage with you in such a way where they are trading their contact details for some value, and then you're following up with them through email. Next, they go to the convert stage, and the convert stage is similar to, for example, the first date. They've signed up now for a first appointment, or they've made a phone call, and they're making a micro commitment to enable you to explain what you do and see whether or not they can benefit from that, to see whether or not they can get to that after state that they wanted to get to all along. Then comes the excite state, and the excite state is where you really have to offer them great value as a consequence of that interaction. If they experience great value and a great feeling of excitement, then they're more likely to ascend to the next stage, which coincidentally is called ascend. And then the ascend stage is where they come in, they visit with you for a consultation, they get an aha moment where they feel like, wow, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And then they go to the next stage, which is they become a patient, you treat them, and then after that, they go to what we call the advocacy stage. And the advocacy stage is where they're telling everybody about you if you ask them. Finally, they go to the promotion stage where you don't even have to ask them because they're so happy with their outcome that they're telling the world without anybody even asking them to do so. So that's how we go about turning people in their before state into their after state using the customer value journey.
LASIK marketing is all about metrics. It's all about looking at how many people are you attracting at each stage of the customer value journey, the patient value journey. It's a buying process, isn't it? And you're right now probably tracking metrics for different parts of the journey, but you may not have it contextualized within this customer value journey that we've been discussing. So what you want to do is have metrics for the aware stage. So you're going to want to know how many people are responding to my paid traffic ads, how many people are responding to my organic SEO efforts, and track that. You're going to want to have a metric for the engage stage. So you're going to want to know how many people are responding to the blog posts that I'm putting up, how many people are actually going to the next stage and taking me up on my offer of subscribe, which is to actually turn into a lead magnet inquiry or somebody who's taking the next step after the engage stage. After the subscribe stage, you want to start to look at the convert. So how many people are actually now taking me up on my offer of usually a free consultation or a paid consultation. So we want to start looking at these metrics. Now, every practice is different, and every practice in different countries actually differ, but we can give you some broad metrics for each of these stages. And it's something that you can use some of the free tools on our website to find these metrics out. And we update these metrics all the time using data that we get from our clinics from around the world. So I invite you to take a look on our website and find those free tools so that you can get an understanding of how do you compete, where do you fit in. But the other metric after the convert stage is you're probably converting anywhere from, say, 15, for example, up to sort of 50, 60% of people that will take you up on the consultation is the consultation, the ascend. How many people are after the excite stage and the consultation stage? How many people are going on to become a patient? So you're going to want to be taking anywhere from 60 to 80% if you're operating at a world-class level to convert at that level. And then we move on to the testimonial phases, so advocacy and promotion. And so you want to have a metric for each of those phases. And each clinic is quite different around that area, but those phases, advocacy and promote, are all about your customer experience, your customer service. So you want to watch those metrics for yourself and improve on those month on month. So if you look at the customer value journey and you break it down and you give yourself a metric, and each of the clinics we work with have metrics for each of those stages, and then you set yourself a task to improve month on month, you're setting yourself up for constant optimization and constant, what we call CANI, a constant and never-ending improvement. And that really gets you on the path to becoming a world-class clinic, marketing at a really efficient level, which generally tends to drop down your cost per acquisition and allow you to get more out of your marketing budget every month.
So now that you've got your metrics in place and you've also got your documented journey, there's one more step in what we call the growth triad that rounds out the table and puts that extra peg into the whole thing so that it works. Now, obviously you need tools and you need tactics. And tools and tactics are what a lot of marketers get excited about, right? In LASIK marketing, we've got lots of options for tools and tactics. We've got Facebook ads, we've got Google ads, we've got self-tests, we've got phone calls, we've got loads and loads of tools and tactics at our disposal. In fact, we've identified roughly about 73 specific tools and tactics that you can use to potentially double your business. And that's wonderful to know. But here's the thing. Most people don't need to know more about tools and tactics. What they have to do is actually document their journey, establish those key metrics, and then choose the right tools and tactics that will work for their specific situation, calling out to their specific avatars so that they can get achievement on those metrics that they've set out. So in this sea of confusion, which we might refer to as 73 potential marketing tools and tactics, which one do you go to first? Well, here's the thing, you don't need to know that. That's why you have experts. If you identify the documented journey with an expert, and then you identify the metrics with an expert, you can then get good advice on which tools and tactics to do first and foremost that are going to generate the best bang for your buck, if you will. And when you have that kind of clarity, you're able to act. Because there's no sense in having the journey and just metrics alone, you got to do something too. And when you've got those tools and tactics getting started, then you have something to balance it against. Consider that as your next step. Identify your tools and tactics after you've identified your customer journey and after you've figured out what your metrics are indeed going to be. Back when you were in school, you had a relatively easy way to ascertain where you stacked up against your peers and colleagues. However, now that you're in a practice setting, it's a little bit tougher to know where you stack up. Not only against your ideal, but also against your peers and your colleagues. And that's why we created the Premium Practice Score. And if you'd like to take that test, if you'd like to see where you stand up against the best in the world, or perhaps the best for yourself, you're able now to take that and then see where you stack up.